Hello, people of the C3 forums. This is Sailing Whisper. You may know me as the Coheed and Cambria guy, although I don't know if anyone calls me that, but I call myself that because I chart a lot of Coheed and Cambria. Anyway, so this video I wanted to do a tutorial on authoring vocals and specifically harmonies. And there are two other tutorials that I will recommend that you watch before watching this one, and that is PK Sage's Let's Author Twitch stream, and then Nick Sixtolith's vocals tutorial. And PK Sage's Let's Author is just a very general guide on authoring a song in general, all instruments, and he does go a little bit into harmonies, but this video is meant to go more in depth. And Nick Sixtolith's video is a tutorial specifically on harmonies. He also does a tutorial on how to do tempo mapping, which this tutorial is basically going to assume that that you're someone who knows how to author all the other instruments. I'm not going to go into guitar, bass, drums, etc. And it'll also assume that you know generally how to do vocals, but this will go more in depth. Like I was about to say, Nick Sixtolith's video on vocals is a very good video. I highly recommend that you watch it. But there were a bunch of things in that video that he did not go over, and stuff that I had to learn basically by doing, and of course reading the Rock Band Network documents. You can find that in the authoring section on the C3 forums. Obviously read all that too. I had to do a lot of reading and a lot of trial and error in order to basically learn how to do harmonies. And I just wanted to do a video because, of course, while you should do all the reading and do all the research yourself, a video format is a little bit more helpful in terms of, like, it's easy, watching someone do it is a lot easier and can help you learn a little bit easier. I know video tutorials, I watch video tutorials on various things all the time, so I figured this could help someone out there. This isn't scripted or anything. I don't really have a plan of what I'm going to do, but basically I have a song set up here. So this will be the Day by Jeff Williams and Casey Lee Williams. It is the intro track to the anime series Ruby by Rooster Teeth Productions. Highly recommend you watch that series. It's a very good American animated series. It's an American series made by Americans, but it's in sort of an anime style. It's very good. I recommend you watch it. And one awesome thing is that the soundtrack for the show is phenomenal, especially Volume 1. Volume 1's my favorite specifically. I haven't really listened to Volume 3 or 4. I haven't even watched Volume 4 yet, but anyway, that's beside the point. So the reason why I chose this song specifically is because multi-tracks are available for most but not all of the songs from each volume, and they're available on an app you can get. It's iPhone only, unfortunately, but thanks to Ultimate Mango on the C3 forums, hey Ultimate Mango, he a long time ago actually got me the multi-tracks to this song. This song comes free with the app, but all the other songs you have to purchase. So basically, I'm going to be... So as you could probably tell, I have the multi-tracks here, but I also have the full mix on one track. So because 99% of the songs you're going to be doing, unless you happen to have multi-tracks like this, or you're doing a Guitar Hero conversion or something like that, the majority, like 99% of songs you're going to do, you're only going to have this full multi-track. So I'm going to first be going over how to do it with a full multi-track, and then at the very end I'll go into how to do it with individual stems, because with individual stems it is much easier to do harmonies. So yeah, luckily the song is a constant tempo, so no tempo mapping needed. I have all the tracks lined up, and as you can see, I have these 4 tracks extended to the full length of the song. Yeah, like I said, I don't really have a structure. I'm just kind of be winging it and just authoring. So first what I do is hold down Control and select all the tracks and hit Control-Alt-E. Now what that allows you to do is have all 3 harmony tracks open at once, and then if you hit Alt-N, you can switch between Harm 1, Harm 2, and Harm 3, as you can see in the corner there. This allows you to see the different harmonies in the background as like ghost notes. You'll see what I mean. So it's really helpful to just switch between them. So yeah, let's just scrub through the song and find where the vocals start. So I hope that let me just turn it down on my end. That's another quick tip I have. If you're unsure if your tempo map is accurate, if it doesn't quite look like it's lined up, turn on the metronome. And if the metronome sounds like it's right, like it syncs up with the audio, that's how you know that it's good. Anyway, so find where the vocals start. Alright, so they start around here. Another note is make sure that the grid is on 1/64th. I know that Guitar Hero, Neversoft, and Harmonix, they don't author with any sort of grid, but excuse me, I'm a bit burpy. But using a grid is very helpful. Excuse me, wow. You can tell that this video is not scripted and probably not edited too much. So using a grid is helpful. You know, you don't need to do it any lower than 1/64th. In fact, most of the time I only author in like 1/32. Like in practice, like in theory it's 1/64th, but in practice it's really 1/32, because I'm not super strict with like, okay, I gotta line it up exactly. I don't know if that's something that's wrong, but that's just kind of the way I do it, and haven't had any sort of complaints about any of my songs and the vocals specifically. So yeah, let's just get it started. So kind of looks like I need to line that up a little bit that way. Alright, so the first note starts on here, and another thing about vocals is that you sort of need to have a musical ear. I'm a musician in real life. I play guitar, a little bit of piano, so I sort of have a musician's ear. That's not something that everyone will have, but you'll get better at it the more you do it. So they, sounds like that's an A right there. They. So because the next note starts an eighth after this first note, you should leave 2/64ths. Generally, you should leave 2/64ths of a gap in between notes. That's something that Nick Sixlith said in his video. 2/64th is also 1/32 if you know math and can reduce fractions and whatnot. So see, they see. So it sounds like it's 2 A's there. I'm sort of a singer, so I like to sing along as I do it. Me copying the note and going like C, like it's an A. That sort of helps me to. That sort of helps me to hear the note. Another useful thing is right here. You see that there's this thing called the scale. So if you don't know, in music, a scale is basically like, okay, the song is in a specific key. So it's a key of C major, A minor, something like that. So that basically means that all the notes. So obviously there's, if you know anything about music, there's 11, I think, notes possible. So A sharp, or A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, etc., all the way back up to A. So when the note could be anything, that sort of makes guessing the note a little bit harder. But what I recommend doing is going to your favorite web browser and searching. This will be the day key. So look at the song look at the song, see Ultimate Guitar has chords. This is very helpful. You know what? I actually did this song a while ago. So let me... There we go. So I don't know if... As you can see, I did most of the vocals. I don't think I did that. Okay, well, I'm going to show you how to easily find the key if you can't find it on Google. So just start out doing the first couple notes. So let's continue doing that. I see you. Sounds like it's a G. I see you as small. So I'm kind of focusing on doing here. So you know, the fact that you can press any note and hear the song, or hear the note, sorry, as you press it is very helpful. Let's see. So I also like to make sure that the velocity, hit Control A and drag the velocity all the way up, just so that the note is audible, because sometimes Reaper will automatically reduce the velocity, and because this isn't like an actual song that you're making, like for real, like a real song, it doesn't really matter. Anyway. So because the next phrase is very similar, I'm just going to copy and paste it. So there you go. So there we go. That's the first phrase. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this website called songkeyfinder.com. I'll put a link in the description if I remember. So this is a super useful website. You can search artists if you want, but it's not like really popular songs will have it, but the song like the Ruby soundtrack probably won't be on there. So we have all these notes here that we know for a fact are in the right key because they sound correct. So basically going to enter those into this. Now because I'm a guitar player, I know what notes are each. For example, that's a D, 5th fret on the A string. But if you don't know anything about guitar, you can just Google like a picture, be like what fret on what string is what note. So we know that D is a note. We know that E and F are notes. So E, F, G, and A. G and A. So we see here that it now says that there are two possible keys, C major and F major. C major and F major are very similar keys, because they obviously have the same notes, and that means that either the third and the fourth, I believe the third and the fourth of C major are E and F, and then the seventh and eighth of F major are E and F. So because we know that those two notes are together, like they're one semitone apart, we know that it's either one of these two keys. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume it's C major. It may be wrong. As we go on, it might turn out to be F major. Who knows? But this is a good place to start. So the way the scale function works is it means that, see, if I'm going up and down, if I turn that off, it just turns into any note possible. But if I have the scale on, that means that it'll only let me place notes that are in the key, and that greatly reduces the amount of possible notes that you can place. So that means that whenever you place a note, you'll know that it is in the key of the song, and it makes it a lot easier to find the correct pitch. So yeah, that was a D, and yeah, so that's the scale thing done. That's a super helpful feature. So now that we have just the first phrase done, always save your work. Pro tip for anything, not just authoring, but essays or whatever. Always save your work. So the next thing we want to do, say that we have this finished, is we want to add lyrics. So what I did for a long time, not realizing that this was a part of the C3 tools. By the way, this tutorial is also assuming that you have all the correct Reaper plugins. You have C3 automated tools. You have all the default things. Basically, just look on the authoring forums and find the things you need for Reaper. That's probably not what it's called. Find that thread and then install everything. This is assuming that you have that and you're on Reaper version 4.22. I believe that's the recommended version. And you also need Reaper 32-bit, I believe, because I don't think the C3 stuff works with 64-bit. Anyway, the way I used to do it is I would double-click down here in the text events, change that to lyrics, and then be like, they see, and I would input them all manually like that. And as you can tell, or as you can see, just inputting two is a pain in the behind. But luckily, there is a automated thing. Let me see if I can find it here. So, lyric. I don't know. I remember what I had to do was I had to input the action myself. Because for some reason mine just wasn't working. I think by default it set it to Shift L. So basically the way this will work is you highlight notes, you hit Shift L, and then it'll prompt you to click on a text file, and whatever's in that text file will automatically be applied to this. If you've seen Nick Sixlith's tutorial, you'll know how this works. But I'm going to take it a step further. So I'm going to go to this. Whoop, that's my video recording. Tutorial, there we go. Alright, so the way I do it is I create a new text document, type lyrics, and open it up. So we have it in Notepad. So now what you need to do is go back to your browser and look up the song's lyrics. So Genius Lyrics is a pretty good website. As you can see, we have the lyrics of the song. So just copying and pasting that into the notepad and then hitting Shift L is not good enough, because you need to separate the syllables, because as you can see here, see, helpless, that's one word, but it's across two notes. Each syllable gets its own note. Generally, that's how it works in songs. So as you see, helpless is one word. So what you need to do is look up lyric hyphenator and click on this website, juiciobrennan.com/hyphenator. So basically what you do is you copy this, paste it here, and then you hyphenate my text, and see it hyphenates that word. It just so happens that in this phrase, that's the only hyphenated word. So another thing, if you've read the harmonics documents, you know that each phrase, the only capital letter for a word that isn't a proper noun is the first word. So because they so happen to have this as like two phrases, I would put this at just one phrase. I mean, you could make this two different phrases, but this is just how I like to do it. So, all right, where am I going? Okay, so what you do here is you have your hyphenated text. You make sure that the all that is set, and you copy and paste into here. And what you do is you go to Edit, Replace, and go find what dash, and then do dash and space and hit replace all. That separates the hyphenated words so that it means that it'll see this as two different lyrics. So what you do is you save that, and then go back into here, highlight everything you want in your phrase, hit Shift L, find, I was just working on some Ninja Sex Party, find your thing, double click it, and as you can see, very nice. They see you small and helpless. They see you as just a child. Perfect. So that's basically how to add text to your thing. You could author the entire song and wait until the very end to do it, but I find that that would probably be a little bit more trouble than it's worth, because you might mess up something, and it's just a lot more trouble than you would think. So I like to take it a phrase at a time. That way, you know, you can check for spelling errors. And this way, it's just a lot easier. Now, another thing that I like to do is at the very beginning of every phrase, you put an @ symbol. So, I'm just going to replace it again. So as you can see, the very first word in this phrase has an @ symbol. Now, the reason why I like to do that is because if you go into CAT over here, wait for it to come up. Here we go. So under the vocals, you can see create phrase markers. So what that does is it looks at words with the @ symbol, and everything between one @ symbol and then the word before another word with an @ symbol, it'll make that a phrase. So this is on Harmonies 1. So you could also do Harmonies or whatever. I'm just going to do Harm 1. I like to do 8th grid, and you can create overdrive, but for some reason for me, when I hit create overdrive, it tends to just not. So create overdrive is a separate function in CAT, so it doesn't really matter. So you hit create frame, whoa. Control Z. Uh-oh. Did I crash? Uh-oh, I think I crashed. This is why you always save your work, ladies and gentlemen. Don't know why that happened, but let's fire it up again. Yeah, so, sorry, I'm just adjusting myself. So that is a perfect example of why you always save your work, and there we go. So here we are again. Alright, hopefully I can do that again and that won't happen. Alright, you see I'm on Harm 3, go back to Harm 1. Okay, guess I didn't save after doing that, but look at that. Easy as that. So I guess I'll try it one more time. If it crashes again, I'll just stop, because I'm not sure why I did that, to be honest. So save as much as you can. Create phrase markers. Let's try just doing harmonies, 8th grid. There we go. Worked this time. So as you see, it gets rid of the @ symbol and then puts a nice phrase marker perfectly over this phrase. So adding phrase markers is another thing that takes up so much time, and doing it this way will save you a lot of time. So I'm going to delete it just for now, because you don't want to be doing that as you go. You want to save that till the very end, just because if you keep doing it as you go, it gets rid of the previous phrase markers, and it's just a whole thing. So we have this phrase done. Let's go to a phrase that actually has harmonies. So just by looking at the multi-tracks here, I can see when there's any harmonies. Alright, so let's Alright, so I have this whole phrase done. Now what I'm going to do really quickly is actually do the lyrics. Prepare for your greatest moments, prepare for your finest hour. There we go. Also make sure to remove any punctuation like commas or periods or semicolons like that, because we don't want those in the lyrics of in the game, because that'll just muddy it up and it'll make it confusing. So no punctuation. So hyphenate. Put it in here. Shift L. Boom. Alright, there we go. So, as you can tell, when she says prepare, there is a harmony. So, that means that we need to do that. So, luckily, this is what they call a block harmony, which means that the rhythm and the lyrics of the main vocal and the harmony vocal are the same. They're just singing a different note. So with block harmonies, you can just copy. So because she only sings it on the prepare, copy and paste it onto harm 2. So for 2-part harmonies, which this sounds to me like a 2-part harmony, it could be more. I can check my multi-tracks. That's the beauty of having multi-tracks. So for 2-part harmonies, you want the main harmony on harm 1 and then the secondary harmony on harm 2, whether it's above or below. Excuse me. For 3-part harmonies, generally what you want to do is you have main harmony on harm 1, higher harmony on harm 2, and then lower harmony on harm 3. So if harm 1 is the middle, harm 2 is the one above, and then harm 3 is the one below. If harm 1 is either at the bottom or at the top, I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. If harm 1 is at the top or the bottom, you want... Dogs are freaking out. If harm 1 is at the top or the bottom, you want harm 2 to always be above harm 3. This isn't a rule that you necessarily need to stick to, but that's basically what Harmonics does. It's in the Harmonics Rock Band Network documents, I believe. That's just the way I do it. Sometimes you can break the rules. It doesn't really matter as far as scoring, but that's just the way they do it. So that's the way I try to do it. Anyway, so another reason why the scale is so useful is because it makes doing harmonies really easy. When two people sing the same note, or two notes are called the tonic, basically. So the main note is called the tonic. So in this case, A is the tonic, and then or 1 in the scale. So if you hit 1 up, that's a second, third, fourth, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th is an octave. So harmonies are usually in either thirds, fourths, or fifths. Generally, especially 2-part harmonies, either up or down. So That's a second down, third down, fourth down, fifth down, etc. So generally, they're either a third, fourth, or fifth, up or down. So in this case, I believe the harmony is down, so let's try 3 down and see if that sounds good. So that sounds about right to me. And you can solo just that, so be like, prepare. So that sounds good to me. I like, usually if it's just a third, like that's a 1, 2, 3, it's a third. So that makes our lives really easy if it's just a third or something like that. So harmonies, if you have multi-tracks, so I'm basically just going to check. So let's see if I solo these two.
Prepare for your greatest moments. Prepare for your...
So if I solo the main harmony and I solo the main harmony here.
Prepare for your greatest moments. Prepare for your finest hour.
And I solo the backup harmony and I solo this.
Prepare.
So that sounds good. It sounds exactly correct. So that was easy. For a 2-part harmony, 2-part harmonies are usually not that difficult, especially if they're block harmonies, which all of Coheed and Cambria's harmonies are block harmonies. So that makes doing harmonies for Coheed and Cambria really easy. So another thing is that you also want the @ symbol on Harm 2, because for phrase markers on Harm 2, the phrase markers for Harm 1 and Harm 2 don't necessarily have to align. Harm 1 dictates where the line is, where it ends the phrase in-game and gives you the score. But the purpose of phrase markers for Harm 2 is to know when there isn't any vocals, so that you can deploy overdrive. And also Harm 3 vocals must always be under Harm 2 vocals. So say you have an instance where there are where it's Harm 3, but there are no Harm 2, you still have to have the phrase marker over the Harm 3 part in Harm 2. I don't know if I explained that correctly. Hope that makes sense. Read the Rock Band Network documents if you need more clarification for that. So, okay, so that sounds pretty good. I don't remember if there's any particular 3-part harmonies in this song, but let's get to a part, maybe the chorus, where the harmony is a bit more involved than that. So. Alright, so I'm going to author this real quick. I'll speed it up. See you then. Alright, so I've authored the main harmony. Again, let's go back to the lyric. So this will be the day we waited for. I'll just make that one phrase. So this is also a good chance to show how to do slides. So a slide is when a syllable spans 2 notes. So obviously you can't split up the syllable to make it a different lyric. So the way that works is we put a plus sign to indicate that it's a slide. So if you listen. So on this'll be the day. So it's one syllable, a 1-syllable word that spans across 2 notes. So if we go back to this, excuse me, you do space and then that. Oh, also do that. And so when you go and do this, there is the slide there. So in game, the way it works is you'll see the tube like go slanted like that. So day. I'm not singing in key at all, but you'll see the slide there. You don't see it here, obviously, because this is just a MIDI editor. But in game, that's what it'll look like. So So the harmony in this is really hard to hear. So let me see if this trick will work. So in the Reaper effects, if you go to JS and you go to loser center canceller, thanks to AFJ or AJF 123, I think that's his name. I think I've been like reading his name wrong on the forums like forever, but you know who I mean. That guy. Thanks for showing me this tip. So the center canceller basically means that obviously when you listen to a song, you have right and left headphones. My right, my left. So anything that is playing through both at the same time, this will cancel. So anything that is specifically on the left or the right will stay. So sometimes, but not all the time, when you do this, it'll cancel out main instruments, and sometimes if the vocals are panned left to right, you'll be able to hear it. Let's see if that'll work. So as you can tell, that did not work. So that means that the vocals are in the center. So just turn that off so that you don't hear mono audio. So unfortunately for this song, that didn't work. Sometimes songs, like I know most Ninja Sex Party songs that I've done, that helps because in Ninja Sex Party they like to do the vocals off to the left and right and all the instruments in the center. So that really helps because they have some pretty complicated harmonies. So as you can hear, very faintly in the background, you can hear a lower harmony. So I'm going to copy. I believe it's on all the notes. I can check with the multi-tracks. Wow, excuse me, I'm so burpy. So let's just see how that sounds. So that did not sound very good. Also, another note, I found out that it was actually an F major because the note B flat is not in the key of C major, but obviously you could tell that this note right here is a B flat. So that means it was an F major all along. So of course, you know, you'll find things like that as you go along. Oh, I'm sorry, that was a fourth, so this is the third. So that sounds pretty good. Let's double check with the again. I don't know if I should do this in the tutorial because obviously 99% of songs won't have the multi-tracks, but for the purposes of just me being sure that it sounds right, I'll do it.
This'll be the day we waited for.
So as you could hear with the solo vocals, it sounds like she recorded the vocals twice and they layered on top of each other. You could make that a unison harmony where both harm 1 and harm 2 are the same thing, but I usually don't do that since I don't really see a point. So let's check if the lower harmony sounds good.
This'll be the day we waited for.
Oh, okay, so
This'll be the day we waited for.
So as you can hear there's the third harmony that I didn't hear in the full mix. Obviously everything up to here is correct here, so that's good. You can tell most artists like Coed and Cambria, like 99% of their vocals are in thirds, either up or down, so that's easy to tell. Certain artists, they'll most likely be in thirds or fourths or something like that. Yeah. So I think right here would be a good time to show you a little trick that I like to do. So I'm going to mute those real quick. So if we go to this and highlight it, let's turn on the gridlock. So, and turn on this. So that means that it'll loop this. So as you can tell, it does that. So that's a very helpful tool to make sure that something sounds, very specific syllable sounds good. So let's say I thought that it was a G right there. So that's a little bit dissonant, so you can tell that that's not the right note. So as you can hear, you can keep going up and down until it sounds just right. So as you can see, the E right there is correct. So well, let's assume that you wanted to know exactly what the harmony was. It wasn't a third and you were having a little bit of trouble finding it. One really useful tool is an app on the phone. Let me just get my phone out real quick. An app called Pitch Lab. Pitch Lab is a chromatic tuner designed for use with guitars. As you can see, there's a guitar right there. But it's a chromatic tuner, which means you can use it for anything, basically. So as you can see, right there, it'll show a note. So if I sing a note, that was close to an F. So what you want to do, this does seem a little bit silly. So take off the headphones, play it on a loop, hold it up, hold your phone up to the thing. So as you see, that says it's an E. So that means that this doesn't always work because background instruments might mess it up, but in that case, the vocal is prominent enough to where this was picking it up as an E, and since we already checked, it's correct as an E. So that's good for doing main vocals. But if you want to do harmonies, if there's more than one vocal, well, one thing that doesn't always work, but if you take this screen and go swipe once to the right, you'll see this. Now, on that, it'll show a spectrum with all the notes. So if I alright, so as you can see, it looks like a bit of a mess, but you can see a line on the notes of E, it looks like C and A. So that would suggest to me that one of the harmonies is C and another is A. So let's go to harm 3. So it sounds like there's an A right there. So extend that out, and it says there's only one thing. You can just go 4. Now you don't need any sort of phrase markers for harm 3, like I said before. So let's just play that. And this is what I was talking about before, where you can see the ghost of the other notes with the Control-Alt-E. So let's just hit play. Whoops, gotta unmute those. So that sounded good. Let's see. Let's do the same trick again, but with just the soloed vocals. So this is made a billion times easier if you have multi-tracks. So the Pitch Lab trick, let's do it again with just the solo vocals. And there you can see a lot more pronounced lines on A, C, and E, so that means that we're correct. And if you have harmonies on different tracks, most of the time, all the harmonies and all the main vocals will be on one track, but in this specific instance, just the lower harmonies are on a different track. So as you can see, C and A are very pronounced on the spectrogram. So that's a very, very useful tool, especially if you have... Oh, sorry, I don't know if the... I really hope that the music doesn't drown out my voice. I tested it before and it sounded okay. So the Pitch Lab trick is really useful if you have multi-tracks. It's also still useful if you don't, especially if you have the center canceller and it makes the vocals more pronounced. That's a super helpful tool. So yeah, there we go. We have a 3-part harmony. Let's just unmute that. So yeah, that is basically what authoring vocals sounds like. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should touch on. Okay, so let's pretend for a minute that hold on. Let's not pretend. Let's actually do it. Be right back. I'll do a little bit more authoring. All right, so we are back. I authored the main harmony of the next phrase. So, as you could hear, as this main harmony finished, she's still singing this note, but the next sort of phrase starts while she's still singing. So there are a few ways you can handle that. One way you can do it is that the main harmony will just be on harm 2 or harm 3 or something like that. Or you can cut this main part short on the main harmony and have the background harmony continue as if it was the main harmony, if that makes sense. That's really something that's up to author's preference. I prefer to have the main harmony continue singing and then the background harmony take over for just the beginning of that one phrase. So here we have. So when she goes, I don't want to hear revolution, or whatever the lyrics are, that part. So let's just mute that real quick. So I'll speed this up again and I'll author the lead part for the next beginning of the phrase. So be right back. Alright, so hold on, let me just get the lyrics up. I don't want to hear absolution. I'll be ready for a revolution. So just to quickly explain what I did, I basically authored the next phrase that would have been on the lead harmony, but I authored it on the harm 2 track. So that sounds good to me. It doesn't sound like there's any harmonies there. It kind of sounds like she double tracked it like I was talking about before, but we don't need to worry about that. So I love this song. Anyway, so let's just, for this example, make the phrase markers. So let me save real quick just in case it messes up again. Hopefully it won't. So just go harmonies, 8th, and there we go. So as you can see, so the way the phrase markers work is I used to make it so that the harm 1 phrase marker would always encompass the entirety of the harm 2 phrase marker, but in terms of in-game, that is not necessary. So for an example like this, basically what this will mean is that right here in the middle of, I'm sure you've seen this in official DLC and other customs, where a harmony will continue singing over the white line where it cuts the phrase and gives you the score. So that's basically what this is. This means that right here where this ends will be a white line, and you see this note is going over it. So as you can see, sorry, I'm a little bit distracted. So that means that on the bottom of the where the lyrics are, that means that the lead singer can activate overdrive while the background singer is still singing. So the end of this doesn't mean that there's going to be another white line right here. That means that the next white line will be after, say, I'd make the phrase again, and then there's another phrase marker, say the phrase is this long. This and then this will be entirely one phrase. Now, if you don't want it to do that, you can extend the phrase marker or something like that. But I find that this is good enough. Oh, I made that on Harm 3. Oops. Make sure you don't do that. I do that all the time where I'll finish Harm 2 and then I'll continue authoring what I want to be on Harm 1, but it's on Harm 2. And I mean, I could just copy and paste it, but it's just a pain. So that is how phrase markers work. I'm trying to think of anything else that you really want to do. So I guess I'll just go over how multitracks work real quick. Or not how they work, but how you can author with the Pitch Lab app very easily. I think my dog is scratching at my door. So let's go to the next phrase. So let's assume that you have the multi-tracks and you're not very good with your ear. So one syllable is right here, so let's have that loop. So as you can see, it sounds a little bit silly, but so let's unmute the Harm 1. So you can hear it like that, or you can do what I was doing before. Pull up Pitch Lab. And as you can see, it says A right there. So that's how you know that that is an A note. Stop that. You can put an A right there. So multitracks makes it super easy, especially for harmonies. I think I showed you earlier. Yeah, I did. How to do it with more than one note. So, yeah, I don't think there's really much else that I'm going to go over. So as you can see, we have the phrase markers here, another cat thing. There's all these things right here that you can do. Like add overdrive phrases. So do that for Harmony 1. And sometimes it's a bit glitchy. I don't think it actually did it. But you can always go in and add them yourself if you want, or you should probably wait until the very end. Yeah, you should probably wait until the very end to add overdrive phrases. Trying to think if there's anything else I should touch upon. So let's say, for example, that you have this Harm 2 phrase, and then you have a Harm 3 harmony or something, and the Harm 3 and Harm 2 are singing different things. Now, the problem with that is that there's only one line for lyrics in game. So if you have the lyrics for Harm 2 and then you have the lyrics for Harm 3, you can only have one or the other. Now, say Harm 2 is like a single note that slides with the plus signs, that doesn't matter. You don't have to hide any of the lyrics. But for example, say if they're singing two different things and different lyrics every time, what you need to do is you need to hide the lyrics of either Harm 2 or Harm 3. So let's assume that we had something on Harm 3. I'm not going to author anything because there isn't anything in this specific thing. But let's say that in these two measures, there's something else in the background, and we want those vocals to be displayed. So a case like that would be, say, Harm 1 and Harm 2 are block harmonies, and Harm 3 is something completely different. If Harm 1 and Harm 2 are singing the same thing, you can hide the lyrics of Harm 2 because they're the same lyrics as Harm 1, and that'll be displayed at the bottom. So that is an instance where you would hide harm 2 because you would already know the lyrics because they're being displayed on harm 1. So let's assume that that's the case for this. So let me just touch upon real quick. Because both harm 2 and harm 3 are both singing the lyric 4, you don't need to hide any lyrics. I mean, you could hide the lyrics, but it's pointless. So let's assume that on harm 3, like I said, I'm repeating myself, on harm 3 for 39 and 40, there's something else going on here, and we want to hide these lyrics. So how you do it is after every single thing, after every single lyric, you would add a $sign. So Cat does it easily for you. So let's say you want to hide the lyrics. It's on Harmony 2 and go hide selected notes only. So they automatically added a $sign after every single thing. So that means that in game, the lyrics for these notes won't display, so that the lyrics for the harm 3 will display. And that keeps it from being like a muddled mess of lyrics, and you don't know which lyrics go with which line. And it just saves a whole lot of confusion, makes it look a lot nicer and cleaner. So, hiding lyrics, unpitched lyrics. So let's say that you're doing like a rap song. I think Nick Sixlith covers this, but I'll just explain it real quick. So say you're doing like a rap song, or there's a specific lyric, like they're going like whoa, or like something like that, where it isn't pitched but you still want the player to sing it. That's they call them talkies. That's when it's a block in game. So basically you just make that note any pitch. So let's say that these are like rap lyrics. Let me just unhide those. Let me save project. There we go. So let's say that you want these are rap lyrics or something like that, and they're not pitched. So what you want to do is you select them, do change notes to unpitched. Where is it? There we go. Change notes to non-pitched. For things like someone going like woo, or in a song that's normally has pitched notes, but there's just one phrase that wasn't pitched, you would have the pound sign or the number sign. For songs that are rap, like in this made-up example, where it's a bunch of notes repeated, you would want to do the caret symbol. I don't really know what the difference is. I'm sure they explained it in the Rock Band Network documents, but that's how you do that, basically. So, again, I'm not sure what the difference is, but I'm sure Nick Sixlith explained it. I haven't seen that video specifically in a long time. And I'm sure they explain it in the Rock Band Network documents. So, hopefully this tutorial was helpful. If you're someone who wants to do lyrics but you don't really know how, or maybe you learned something new, like for example, maybe you didn't know that you could select them all and do that, because that is super helpful for going between all the harmonies and seeing them. It's almost like a preview for in-game, because all these other ones have plugins where you can preview, but Vocals doesn't. This is sort of like a preview. You can see this would be the blue one, this would be the orange one, and this would be the yellow one. So yeah, if there's anything else that you have questions about, refer to Nick Sixlith and PK Sage's video. If it isn't answered there, it's probably answered in the documents. Always look at those before you ask any sort of question on the forum. If not, comment on this forum post, or comment on the YouTube video, or make a new thread, or search the forums. Always do as much research as possible into your thing, and if you can't find a solution, then you can ask a question. And any author, me, anyone else will be happy to help you. So hopefully this tutorial was useful. It was a bit long, but this is a long process. Authoring songs is a long, tedious process. But once you get it down to a sort of routine where you know what you're doing, it makes it a lot easier, where you can do it a lot quicker. So, like I said, I hope this was useful. Yeah, and just with authoring, just do it as much as possible. Just keep authoring, keep sharing, everyone's happy to help you. Even if your chart isn't that good, post it anyway. You can do, give constructive criticism, because all we want is to play fun songs on plastic instruments, and we want the community to grow as large as possible, and to have as many songs as possible so that people can enjoy playing fun songs on their plastic instruments. That's sort of the essence of C3. So yeah, anyway, good luck authoring, and have fun.